guys, it's Becca, Sewed and Twisted. Today we are going to be talking about snippet rolls in this episode of the junk jargon. Yeah, I can't even speak today. I'm going to explain to you what snippet rolls are and what they can be used for, more importantly, because it's all well and good knowing what something is, but if you don't know why or how to use it, well then it's pretty pointless. So snippet rolls are effectively a great way to use up scraps, and I love junk journal scraps. They're one of my favourite things. So I will make things just to make scraps half the time, I swear. So effectively you are going to create a roll using scraps, and you can cut up bigger pieces into smaller pieces, you know, to make them fit, but we'll go through that in a second. And I will teach you the anatomy of a snippet roll and the different kinds you can make. Now, to use snippet rolls is a wonderful thing because you have all of these lovely things on one roll. So effectively you can just say, okay, I need a piece 2 inches long, and cut off 2 inches from your snippet roll and put it on something. In this instance I've put it on the front of a tag, so it really kind of fits the whole sort of vintage shabby kind of look, you know, really well, I think personally. Another option was a bookmark that I used it on, and you can use it on covers, you can use it on pockets, basically anything that you're going to decorate anyway, you can use snippet roll. Now there are different types of snippet roll. Some people do them with fabric, which is what I do most of the time, but you can also do them with paper and card, and just use long thin strips of cardstock or paper stock and glue all your bits on, and then just cut that off as and when necessary. I did a tutorial a while ago for a similar idea, but using precise shapes to make a scrap ribbon that you could use for belly bands and things like that. But you know, that's just another way to create a roll of something using your scraps. So today I'm going to focus on fabric scraps, fabric snippet rolls, because they're my favourite and I create an awful lot of pieces. Just bits and pieces everywhere. So these are treasure. These are absolute treasure. So let's get started on how to make your snippet roll. Now don't worry if you think to yourself, well, I don't have that many scraps of fabric and things like that, but I really want to make a fabric one. You can still make one, don't worry. I'll show you. Now I use the most basic ribbon to make these with. It's nice and thin, it holds everything perfectly well, and you can just keep going. You don't have to cut, you know, a length and then do that. You can just glue as you go. So I keep this as a dedicated reel for making snippet rolls. However, I had just used the last of mine making these, so we know we need that. Now the other really important thing is glue. Now with snippet rolls you've got a couple of choices really. You can use hot glue to set things instantly, which does make it quicker, or you can use a strong fabric glue that sets relatively quickly, and I swear to God at this rate I'm going to end up being sponsored by Yoo-hoo. That I absolutely I love their glue for gluing pretty much, well, most things. So yeah, they're your two options. Then you're going to need various bits of fabric, lace. As I say, if you don't have snippets, this is just a piece that I coffee dyed. If you don't have snippets, you know, that's fine. Let's get a bit more light on the subject here, a bit better. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you have to take it off a roll, take it off a roll. You know, yes, they are great for using scraps, but if you haven't generated a lot of scraps but you want to make a snippet roll, well, you know, don't let that hold you back. So you can, you know, use little bits and pieces of things like this. This is one of my favourite things in the world. So just grab, you know, a random selection of things that you would like to use in your snippet roll. Another great source of things to use are fabric samples, which I have, you know, a folder full of different samples. Oh, and some scraps that didn't make it into my scrap box yet. But yeah, you can find fabric samples, and then you can just chop bits off of them and make your snippet roll that way. So whilst yes, the idea of junk journal is to, you know, use up bits and pieces, but you don't make scraps if you haven't made much, you know, actual stuff yet, so don't feel bad. So yeah, we've got some different fabric types here. They're the same one actually. Some of those. Where's my other box? I have multiple boxes with pieces of lace, pieces of fabric, boxes for scraps, boxes that aren't for scraps. You get the idea. That's quite nice. So we'll have some of that out of there, and we'll have a piece of that. We're not going to make a massive one today. I'm just pulling out options because I really do just make it up as I go along, which is exactly what you will do as well. So, like I say, just grab what you have. It doesn't matter if you've only got, you know, a handful of things. You don't have to have a huge variety of things. You know, you've got what you've got, and that's the beauty of junk journaling, really, is that you just use what you have. So don't fret. Okay, so let's put all that over to the side. The one last thing that makes these wonderful is embellishments. So things like pearl string, if you can get your hands on some of that, great. This little type as well is quite fabulous. I use this a lot. Sorry about all the rustling, but this is like a faux pearl garland. It's really pretty. The other thing you can do, you can pick these up really cheaply as well. Again, sorry about the rustling. Is petals. Either, you know, fabric, paper, doesn't matter. So yeah, some petals, that always works really nicely for this kind of thing. And well, basically just, you know, anything that you think, oh, that'll look nice, pinned on there, you know. Well, that's the point of it. Embroidery string, that's another good one. I'm making one hell of a mess here, but you get the idea. Little rose beads. So yeah, okay, we've got a few things there to be getting on with, so let's get those boxes out the way, because it's getting kind of cramped on here, isn't it? Right, okay, so now we're going to start. So let's get it a little bit more organised, I think. Alright, so what I've done is I've kind of divided things into embellishments, little trimmings and stuff, bigger pieces of fabric and bigger pieces of lace and things like that. So first things first, what I like to do is get some scissors. They help. Please excuse, I have the squeakiest chair in the world. You can tear fabric, you can cut it, whatever you want. And then just all I do is kind of arrange bits. Oh my life, one of these days I'll stop hitting that. No, who am I kidding? I won't. So we're just going to lay down a few pieces of fabric in varying positions. So let's get a different one. Let's have some of this one. And again, you know, shape, size, raggedy, it doesn't matter. That is the point, that is the beauty of it. And because you'll be layering it up as well, that makes it a bit easier. Let's have some of this one. This one's quite nice. Should be using my fabric scissors though, shouldn't I really? We'll have a bit of a strip of this one, I think. As I say, it's quick and easy to use hot glue, but you can absolutely just use a normal strong adhesive glue for this part. What else do we have here? This is from some old curtains, I believe. These came from a charity shop, and obviously in the true spirit of junk journaling, this is what we want. So let's just throw down a couple more pieces. I'm not going to do a huge amount of bases because obviously that's not what this is about. This is just about explanation, really. Okay, so when you've gone as long as you want to do for your base layer, you'll then start to build up your second layer. And the problem with hot glue is hot glue strings that stick everything together. So for example, that will go nicely. We'll just pop a bit of hot glue on the back of that. I've got 2 on that one, and we'll just pop one down on there. Put that one aside for a minute. Let's take some of this coffee dyed lace. And I'd say the beauty to this is layering. So as with a lot of things, clusters that I explained in a previous video are a prime example of layering and why it's quite wonderful. So we'll have a bit of that there, and we'll take another piece to just put over there. But then also, don't waste these little bits. You know, if you didn't want the ruffle like I didn't on the actual lace piece, these bits are equally as useful and as valid because they're junk, therefore they belong. So we'll just, oh, see, hot glue, it's a wonder, isn't it? And we will use this bit in the middle of our rose petal. Can you see it coming together? It's doing okay. Let's have a bit of Hessian. We do like a bit of Hessian. It's always good with Hessian if you just rough up the edges a little bit, because it just makes it that little bit more scruffy. So I'll have that. Pop that down on there. We're not going to use calico for this one, I don't think. Oh, there's a tiny little end piece of one of my snippet rolls. Okay, let's have a bit of this sort of bronze gossamer fabric, and what I'm going to do with that one is fold it, pop it on there, and my thumb's actually glued to the last piece. I am an absolute liability. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Okay, now if you do have the fortune of having scrappy pieces that you don't have to cut, fantastic. This is the time that they shine. So we have all of these little bits that have been cut off from making different things, and you don't have to make it as clusters. You put things in between as well. Don't think of it as, you know, sort of a cluster of things all together. As you start to layer it, distribute it along. What else do we have in that regard? So, oh, that's another piece of the same. I don't want the same. Can't be doing that. Let's have some of this one. And we will pop that in here, I think. So as you see, it's completely organic and ever so easy, because you are literally just using what you have to hand that you like. And I'm just trying to see, oh, there we go. I knew I had some of this in there somewhere. This has got such a beautiful kind of gold shimmer to it. It's beautiful. So we'll pop that one down. That's going to need a little bit more glue on there. You don't want to glue every single part of all of the bits, because A, it can become difficult to cut through, and B, you want bits sticking up and, you know, doing random stuff. So, you know, don't be afraid of leaving them to, you know, to sit proud and stuff. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so we're not going to go completely crazy today, because there's no point to, you know, bore you guys with the creation of a 6-foot roll of Snippet. But if you've used hot glue like I have, just pull a few bits off. And so then you get round to the embellishing part. Now again, things like this, you know, don't worry, it's come apart. Okay, that's fine. You can still snip, you know, put bits of this onto the roll. You might find it a little bit trickier with hot glue, because hot glue can be a bit of a pain if you've got fiddly things to do. But if we just put a little dab there and then push it down from either side so that it's not actually using our fingers until it's almost set, and then just push it down. So then that's on there, and that's lovely. And we've got little bits of bead, which, oh, that will go really nicely in there. So if you get a decent blob of the hot glue, and you can just kind of pull the first couple of beads through it so that it sits in there but not completely, again, not completely attached. These little ones are left over from some Christmas ribbon that I had a couple of Christmases ago, and again, they just look nice and effective. Just dab a bit of the glue over a couple of the pieces, pop them down without gluing my whole hand. Yay! Oh, I feel so accomplished right now. Let's have a little bit of these. Let's grab 2 of them. So as you can see, it shapes up really quite quickly. Just be very careful if you're using hot glue that way. I have to say it, I know you're not children, but be very careful you don't burn your fingers, because this stuff, my God, it burns. So just be aware of that. I used to see people all the time, you know, just hot glue straight near their fingers, and I just think, how the hell are they not getting burned? It's an art. Well practiced art. Okay. And then I think maybe a couple of buttons might be nice. So let's see, what have we got in this jar? Let's have a look in this one. It's a bit bulky. Depending on what you're using them for as well, you know, you're not going to want really thick buttons, because it could make it awkward to use them. So do bear that in mind. This is the one time I don't tend to thread my buttons before I put them on. You can do, I have done, I just ordinarily I don't with Snippet rolls. And a great thing to do with these as well is if you make your own buttons so that they're really flat, and you can do that just using a circle punch, and then use a pokey tool or an awl and just make yourself a couple of little holes in the middle there. I think you can actually get button punches, but don't quote me on it. And then you can either use an acrylic medium to make them slightly domed, or I just painted these with metallic acrylic paint, and they're absolutely fine. So, because I wanted these to be completely flat, and that was just made using an old book page, so dead easy. If you've got some wooden buttons, they're another really nice accessory, and you can use your inky tool to just give them a little bit of an ink. My life, I will stop dropping things one of these days. Today is probably not going to be that day. I am notoriously clumsy. So, as you can see, we now have a pretty respectable looking snippet roll. Let's see, we'll just add another button a bit further down this end, I think. These are great as well for using up buttons that have been, where the holes have missed. You'll have to excuse me, I've got paint on my finger, but as you can see there, it's been misaligned. Sometimes you get those in like the bags of buttons that you can get from the craft store and things like that. So they're great for using up on things like this. And what else do we have? What else do we have? Oh, okay, yeah, we'll have that one, I think. So let's just get this one plumped on over here somewhere. Get it underneath that pearl. Okay, so as you can now see, you have the beginnings of a snippet roll. Very easy, very quick. using up all those little scrap pieces. But like I say, don't be afraid to cut bigger pieces. Nobody, you know, there's no junk journal police that's going to come along and say you can't do that. Of course you can. So you now literally just roll it up, hence the term snippet roll. You store that in your stash. When you need a piece, you know, you take it out. Sometimes I want that piece, so I'll cut that and put it in my little embellishments box, you know, and then carry on with the rest of it. So as I say, it is an incredibly easy thing to do, but not always obvious to everybody what it is. And again, this is aimed at complete beginners who don't know these things, don't know the terminology, or what these things are actually used for. So hopefully I've answered that question, little demonstration of how to make one, and you can all go and be inspired and all that kind of stuff. If you like the video, if it's been useful, please do like it, please do subscribe. I get warm fuzzies when you subscribe, so you know you can be responsible for that, making a happy Becca for the day. And then if you subscribe, you'll also get notified of the I'll try that again, you'll get notified of the rest of the videos in this series, plus the full tutorials that I do for other things, mostly aimed at beginners. So happy crafting, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.